Welcome to the Honeymoon Mindset Podcast. Even with kids, you can have a honeymoon mindset. We are your hosts,
Kimberly Mullen.
and James Deppa. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. Again, I'm your host, James, and our lovely co-host is...
Kimberly Mullen.
Hi, Kimberly. How are you doing today?
I'm great, James. How are you today?
Good. Can you hear everything okay?
I can, thank you.
Good. We want to make sure you hear the whole conversation this time, unlike last. Unknowingly, people, she had a hard time hearing me, so we did some investigation and looking, and we got a huge learning this week. But it's all good, because
You
we
learn as you
care.
go.
Yeah. So last week, Kimberly, we talked about how important it is to put yourselves first
Yes.
as a parent and what the kids can learn. And this week, we're going to talk about what does it mean to schedule your kids, and can you overschedule your kids? What does that look like? And tips how to help your kids feel comfortable talking about their being too over scheduled or things that they don't like, so you can have a nice balance for the kid.
Yes, definitely.
So, is it possible, Kimberly, to overschedule a child?
I absolutely believe it is. And it's such a fine line. I know a lot of people are constantly told you have to keep your kids busy. You have to keep your kids busy. Otherwise, they could get into trouble or get into something. But
Right.
free time is so vital to a kid's growth. Time to explore with their imagination, play
Mm-hmm.
with friends, be outside. It's just vital to their growth and they need it. And
Yes.
there's this fine balance. And doing some research on this, I see that experts don't really agree where that fine line is, like how much is too much, because
Right.
really it's individual to each kid how much they can handle.
Yes. When I was looking at that, I saw Psychology Today. I read an article from them, and it said max of 3 activities a week. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
what I was seeing is, again, it's individual to each kid,
right.
but at least make sure there's a couple days a week where they don't have something scheduled.
Right. Yeah.
And just make sure that you're watching their signs of what might be, because sometimes kids won't know, they won't be able to put it into words, like I'm just too busy, mom, I got too
Right.
much going on. And
Yes. Yep.
sometimes all the activities are things they really want to do,
Mm-hmm.
so they push themselves, and you as the parent have to watch for the signals and be like, I think we need to cut back on something. Let's sit down and have a conversation on what we can cut back on.
Right. And the other article I read for another one was saying that sometimes make sure what you're getting your child into isn't something that you wanted to do as a child but never got to.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
that's huge. I remember when I was in high school watching a few different kids. I can think of one off the top of my head specifically whose dad was really into hockey and so
Yeah.
brought him up in hockey and just put so much pressure on him to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that he didn't enjoy hockey, but he didn't want to have to do it every single day of his life. And it
Right.
really, it
Right.
really put him in a depression and hurt him.
Yeah. The article I read said a lot of people, like with music, piano, you raised up as, oh, I play piano, so you need to play piano. Or, I wish I played
Mhm.
piano. Like you said a few seconds ago, it's like, listen to what your kid says. Look at
Yeah.
the signs.
Yeah. I was reading up on the signs, and they're really good to be aware of. Depression is one of them.
Yeah.
Being overtired, trouble sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
grumpy, not being able to control their emotions.
And if they're in school, the grades slipping is
Grades, yep,
one. So,
absolutely. And their physical being. I know this happened with my oldest.
mm-hmm.
Stress, being overscheduled, causes stress, and stress causes headaches and tummy aches. And when she was younger and was
Uh-huh.
in school full time, had homework on top of that, in
Right.
soccer a couple days a week, in gymnastics a couple days a week, she was constantly having headaches and tummy ache.
Right.
And we ended up figuring out it was stress, but at first we were really concerned. We were bringing her to the doctor, wondering if we needed x-rays done. Like,
Uh-huh.
your mind unfortunately goes to some scary places,
Right.
and it all boiled down to stress.
Yeah.
She had too much on her plate.
Mm-hmm. And that's kids trying to keep mom and dad, the parents, happy
Hmm.
and get the kudos and the good jobs from the parents.
Yeah.
That's not realistic on kids. You need to, like Kimberly said, you need to listen to the signs. Look at the signs. If we are in that situation, if we're running all the time, it wears on us. We get tired, we get stressed out, and what do? We stop. And if you
Right.
don't, we have a nervous breakdown. And that's the same thing with kids when they're overscheduled.
Absolutely.
There's
One of the things, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
One of the things I was reading, and it's something I advocate hugely, is not just make sure they have their own free time, which is vital,
Right,
also make sure you're having time with them
right. I
because
did.
they need to know you love them as who they are as a person on the inside and
Mm-hmm.
not because they're overachieving and doing the things you're telling them they need to do.
Right. Yeah. The other thing I saw was one article I read said 20 minutes a day should be family time,
Hmm.
whether it be board games, go outside, play hoops, or something as a family.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. They have to have that family interaction, that family growth, that family bonding. How else are these kids going to
Agreed.
learn, like we said, to be nice, well-rounded adults later on in life? It starts now when they're younger. The other
I
thing is,
totally agree with that.
yeah, you don't also want to push your child too much, I read in some, because then if they are, let's say, piano, we've used that example, or hockey,
Hmm.
you keep pushing them too much, they're going to get burnt out on it. And they're going to probably
Right.
end up, like you said, the one boy, he got depressed and from hockey and stuff because you're pushing them so much. And the kids
So
are
much.
trying to please you, but they feel like they aren't.
And that's very detrimental to a kid's mental being.
Right, right,
I'm curious, James, you've had your kids go through high school and everything already. Mine are
right.
younger. How did you guys work out? Because I know you've talked before about how if they were in a sport, they also had to do an arts. And
Yep.
how did you keep them from being overly scheduled with two different activities, keeping their grades up? How did you see it play out with your children?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. I was about ready to go there. For us, most of the sports were after school,
Hmm.
and so they played a sport. So our choice was, well, you either have to do band, choir, drama, something in the art. Our feeling when they were in school, especially high school, middle school, is back then you see a lot of these pro athletes getting burnt out,
Yeah.
and you just hear them losing all this money that they just made millions, and they lose it all. They blow it because they have no education, nothing in the background.
Right.
And so it's like, and it was really my wife, my first wife. She's like,
Hmm.
no, she really didn't want my boys playing football. I play football. I'm like, you wanted to play? Bring me a sign up. I'll sign you up. And she didn't want them playing because it is a violent sport and it can
Sure.
be hard on the body. So I made the agreement. Okay, fine. They can play sports, but they also have to do a activity, arts or something, so that they are well rounded. A lot of people, I'm just sports, sports, sports. It's like, well, wait a
Right.
minute. Let's get you something else that rounds you out. And they picked it up. The other thing I required is because of what we're seeing with a lot of the sport athletes back in the late 90s, early 20s, or 2000s,
Hmm.
it was like when they fell back, they didn't have an education or they had a very subpar education. So I also required mine to maintain a B average in order to play sports, which most schools you have to have a C average or higher. And I'm like, no, you're not going to just slough off to get through just so you can play ball. No, you're going to actually dig into your studies, focus on your studies, because if you don't decide to go to play sports in college or professionally or semi or something like that, you need something else to build on and to
Right.
help you succeed later on in life. And that's where I required a B average. One of my kids, he did slip below B in
Hmm.
one of his classes, and I said, well, you have the rest of this week to get up, otherwise you're not playing this week. And it was a bigger game. He buckled down and got the work done. They actually
Right.
rose to the occasion. They actually did what they needed to do, focused. They also took interest in their coursework in high school to make sure it wasn't too much, but yet challenging
Nice.
enough for them academically.
Hmm.
For their arts, they just did choir or band in school,
Okay.
so they didn't have a whole lot of extra work outside of the classroom. but yet they were still in choir. Or if the twins did drums, percussion. So they didn't have a whole lot of practicing to do outside of the classroom. So they were still in arts. They still liked doing drama when they were younger kids and stuff. They did summer drama camps and stuff like that. But always,
So
yeah.
so how they were able to get the arts is to include it in their school curriculum, so it wouldn't be extra time outside of school
Right.
taken away from
Yeah.
them. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
And that's how we did it. And they rose to the occasion. They enjoyed it. It's something they're very grateful for. After the divorce, my wife still, or my first wife, I should say, still
Hmm.
carried that policy out because they lived pretty much with her full time. And they kept me apprised of what was going on. And she did too if one was struggling in a class. Well,
Hmm.
my daughter wasn't really into sports. She was more the arts and drama and band. But she did her senior year. So I'm just going to try it. It was competition dance in high school,
Oh,
which she
fun.
really liked. But most of my kids during that time were mostly A's and B's, average, and they strived to get on the A honor roll and stuff. My first one,
And you,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, you and your wife, it sounds like you obviously knew your children very well. You were very involved in helping them decide which paths to take. And you knew that keeping an A and B average was not extra stress on them. They obviously were capable of that.
Right, we listened to our
Right.
kids. Yep, yep,
Yeah, because I feel if a kid were absolutely trying their best and couldn't get above a C, doing their best,
right,
I would still be okay with them doing the extracurricular activities to have something they love and not have so much stress on them. If I knew my child was absolutely capable of getting an A and was getting a C because they were slacking off, then
right.
yes, I would say, sorry, you can't do the sport
Oh,
then.
right, most definitely. I
You
agree.
know,
Yes, and I agree with you. Each child is different, just like each person is different.
absolutely.
Like our second to youngest, Micah, he just graduated and got married this spring. He really
Wow.
wasn't into sports, but we also encouraged him to get out and do something. He actually
Mm-hmm.
took up robotics and really
Awesome.
enjoyed the programming stuff, and he got into drama, not the drama on acting part, but behind the scenes, running the soundboard, running the lights,
Oh, nice.
and doing the rewiring. That's where he found his niche in after school, and he still kept his grades up too. He struggled
I
there
love
for,
that you let them choose where their passions lied.
yes, you have to. Even with Beth's
Absolutely.
kids, they both have a passion for football, so they played football through high school. Neither one of them wanted to go on. They did struggle a little bit in high school,
Mm-hmm.
but they also did other stuff like band, drama, and stuff. But Beth's youngest, he got into more of the computer sciences and stuff, trying to figure out how computers work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he also got more involved in wildlife too, because he really liked fishing and doing stuff outdoorsy. So he did other things, which we were very grateful because it helped round him out. And
That's great.
you you gotta listen to your kids and see what they want to do, and if they
I
do have a,
fully support that.
yep, and if the passion they have may not be the same as you, you know,
And most likely won't be.
yeah,
I mean,
like
if
my,
it is wonderful, then you have something in common, right? But if it's not, it's not.
well, my first wife really didn't like the kids or the boys playing football, but she knew it was their passion. They were good at it. They had fun at it. They had friends in it. So she allowed it and she was okay with it and did the best she could with it. But then she also knew they had this other stuff that she could also enjoy with them also, and they enjoyed together as well.
That's nice.
You know, the other thing is if there's something that your child doesn't like or understand, or you don't understand, that's a great bonding opportunity in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it rounds out your child. You taking an interest shows them, okay, I'm different, but yet my mom and dad, my parents, still have a vested interest in me.
Exactly. Accept me for who I am.
Right. Yep.
That is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
So huge.
And
One thing, James, I'd like to touch on with the scheduling
right.
is to look at yourself as a parent as well
Oh yeah.
and how the schedule affects you, because so many parents are so worn out. especially parents with multiple children like yourself,
Uh-huh.
driving them to each activity. And well, I see so many parents with older kids who are like, well, I got to get this one to football by this time, but this one
Oh,
has baseball
yes.
or something else at the same time, and how am I going to manage that? And they set up carpools and stuff like that, which is great and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I know even when my kids were littler and in gymnastics and in soccer and going to school, it was rough on me being in the car all day. I had an infant who hated being in the car, so it was
Oh, yeah.
so
Yep.
stressful. And when I'm stressed out, guess who that reflects on? Guess who
No,
suffers from that?
it's true. And actually, then that stress out of running the kids around, the kids pick up on
Mhm.
it. And then they
They
start,
completely do.
yeah, and then they start feeling like, well, this isn't worth it. I don't want to stress out. I don't like it. Even though they're passionate about something, then they're going to start to learn to
Right.
hate it because of what it's doing to you as a parent.
Well, yeah, because mommy's freaking out because we can't be late. Like I have an
Right.
issue with time, which I've had to learn to be okay with. If I'm 5 minutes late somewhere, the world is not going to end.
This
But at
comes from a
first, I
world
had
traveler, people, who hates time.
I don't do well with a rigid schedule. If it's so rigid, I am constantly like, you need to get your shoes on. We need to go.
Yep,
You're going to be late. Da, 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 da. And it just made everybody so stressed out.
it
And on the flip
does.
side of that, routine is good. Some kind of predictable routine. It doesn't have to be rigid.
Mm-hmm.
It can be fluid. It doesn't have to be, we have to do this at this time. But we know, like, when we get up, we start to do these things. We start to do our chores and have breakfast and get things going.
Right. Yep.
And it definitely gives them a sense of confidence and feeling of in control when they can predict how their life is going to play out that day. And at the same time, if it's too rigid, it just stresses everybody
Oh,
out.
it does. It does. I just when Cody and Caleb, Beth's boys, were living with us, they were just in
Mhm.
football, and that was okay. Here they have football till here, then homework, and it's like, okay, when do we fit in dinner? When do we fit in this? And it's like trying to find that balance. And it's like, okay, are we going to be back in time for the football game on Friday night, or if
Mhm.
one's playing varsity or JV or C squad or something, what night is that on? And juggling that all around with my
Uh,
5 kids, yeah, that was constantly running and everything. And the other thing that I thought of when I was thinking about this topic is you're running around. What happens if you want to do a family vacation or something with the family
exactly.
over a weekend? You become very limited.
Very
What?
limited. And obviously, as a traveler,
Right.
that is not okay with me.
If you
I
guys
want to
want
be able to pick up and go if we have a vacation.
to, yeah, and there's a lot of times we had to say no to stuff or we want to do something because, hey, it's a smoking sweet deal. Well,
Hmm.
nope. They have this on Saturday or they have this on that night or this on that night. So it's like, okay, you're making a commitment. You're committed to it. It's not just the child. It's you as the parent and your family as
Exactly.
why.
That's why it's so important to sit down before
Mm-hmm.
any activities are set up and agree as a family, am I willing to commit to this?
Yeah.
Am I willing to give up family dinners for this? Am I willing to
Oh, yeah.
drive you around for this? You going to put in the commitment? Are you going to give it your all while you're there?
And the other
Are
thing,
we okay with you missing a practice once in a while so we
yeah.
can have a spontaneous family night?
Yep. And the other thing is, as the parent is, you got to make yourself willing to listen to the child. I know
Yes.
some of these activities can be quite expensive, like hockey,
Yes.
football. Believe it or not, gymnastics
Oh,
can be quite
so expensive.
spendy. Same with kicks for kids or just for kicks, the
Hmm.
kids group or whatever. Those are pretty expensive and intense at times. But you got to
They
be willing
are.
to listen to your child saying, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not as fun as I thought. Wait a minute, child. I just spent how much you're doing it. No, you got to
Right
listen to your
now.
child when they're saying, I need to back off a little, or, you know what, this isn't what I
Yeah,
thought it was going to be. You got to really be willing to take the time to not judge your child or put your child down
right.
because of the anger and frustration of all this time and effort and money that you put into it.
That money is not as important as their mental health at all.
Yes. Yep.
My daughter did that with dance. We put some money into her dance lessons and she didn't enjoy it. She was
Mm-hmm.
so bored. And when she was supposed to be in a play, and she came to me and was like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I already paid for the photographs and the costumes and everything that's
Yep.
going to happen for the play. And she was like, I really I can't, I don't want to. And I said, okay, then you don't have to.
Right. You need to listen to your kids. And I guess that's with my youngest child. He wanted to play football because he thought dad would like it and make that connection with dad. Dude, if you don't want to play, that's fine. But I don't
Exactly.
want you to just sit at home gaming or on your phone or whatever. You're going to get out and do something. He became active
Yes.
in FFA, Future Farmers of America. So he
Cool.
found his thing. So it's like there's things out there, and it could even be work for that matter. No, I don't
There
want.
is.
We don't want your kids just sitting on the couch doing nothing. They need to
Absolutely
get
not.
out there, explore. You need that downtime.
My kids are much younger, but
Yeah.
once COVID hit and they couldn't do the gymnastics and everything anymore, and we decided to get back to traveling full time, we do
Mm-hmm.
not have gaming systems in our RV. We have very little TV access. They know that to me, outdoor play or
Mm-hmm.
creative, imaginative play is the most important. That
Yep.
doesn't mean we don't watch movies together or ever put one on
Right.
just for
Right.
them or, but that is top priority.
Right. And like you said earlier on in the show, kids need that downtime too. They need that time to heal,
Too.
to rest, to grow
Yes.
properly. So be careful how you schedule your kids. Talk to your kids, be open to your kids, listen to your kids. The research is out there. We Kimberly and I both have done our research for the show as we tried to bring up and mention and what we found. Listen to
Yeah.
the signs. What are some of the signs again, Kimberly, that these parents need to listen for or watch out for and talk to their kids about?
Number one is being tired a lot. Kids should not be worn out a lot. Kids have a lot of energy. So if
Mm-hmm.
they're overtired, they're grumpy, they don't have control over their emotions, watch for signs of physical ailments, tummy aches, headaches. If they're having trouble with their grades, doing their homework. One thing I was reading was saying even watch for like asthma and allergies
Mm.
because those can be activated because of stress. So look at your kid's schedule. Are they stressed out with their schedule? Is that why their allergies are acting up?
And overtired too.
Overtired is definitely number one for sure. So watch each child because they're all going to react differently to different schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And then some tips around deciding how much your kid can handle is to sit down with them and like you said, number one, listen to them,
Right.
set ground rules for what you're all willing to do. How many activities is mom and dad willing to drive you to, or
Right.
your caretakers? How
Yep.
how many days a week are you willing to allow there to be a schedule, something scheduled? Because there does have to be days there's nothing scheduled. Make a
Mm-hmm.
calendar together and let them miss a practice once in a while. It's not going to be the end of the world if it means that you're going to have a bonding family night
Mm-hmm.
and they want to be involved in that. They are okay with missing the practice.
Yes.
Make sure you're creating that family time too. You have that set up every week. And
Exactly.
set your priorities like you and your wife did. What do your grades have to stay at? You know, what activities are you allowed to do when you're at home? You're not going to just sit on the video games all day on your days off.
Exactly. Yep.
Set how much time they are allowed to do electronics, stuff like that. Make sure they're getting time with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So important. I know before I had my own kids, I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And I remember watching my sister was a single mom and she constantly had her kids in all the sports
Mm-hmm.
and they enjoyed the sports, but I could see them being worn out. Like I was shocked that football was literally every day after school practice and then a game on Saturday. Plus they
Yep.
had like church on Sunday. There was no complete free day.
Yes.
And they were at these
Yep.
baseball and football games until 8 o'clock at night, and then they haven't had dinner, so they're eating on the go. So one thing to be really conscious of is nutrition.
That's the other thing I saw too is poor nutrition. If they're not eating healthy, is another
Exactly.
sign
With
of
how
them
can you on
struggling.
the go?
Yep.
Absolutely.
The other thing.
Nutrition and loss of family time
Yep.
without those family meals.
Now we're not saying don't schedule your kids. We have said
No, definitely not.
talk to them, schedule them, because when you do that, they learn responsibility. They get to learn
Hmm.
what their limits are. They get to be in charge of who they are, what they want to do, what their interests are. And remember, if your interest doesn't pique the same as their interest in a subject or idea, still encourage them. Learn with them and help them. You know, you may be a city slicker and your kid wants to be a country boy. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, or vice versa. How are you going to incorporate that and help them learn and experience that in that setting? You know?
Definitely. Just
So,
together, figure out what all of you can handle as a family together
yeah.
and
So,
put mental health first.
yes. Put your mental health first and you take care of yourselves, your kids, your family. And I guess the other thing that we said about last week, putting yourself first, the kids are going to learn to put themselves first because they'll learn those limits. They'll learn those warning signs of what to look out for.
Yes. They'll be able to tell when they're overtired, or they'll be able to talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm. So true. So, Kimberly, anything else before we sign off for another week?
I think I hit all the points I wanted to hit for sure. Make sure you're listening to your kids on this subject. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. And just don't, I guess I want to reiterate too, is make sure what they're doing is what they want to do. Not what
Yes.
you want or what you want them to accomplish because you didn't. Listen to them. Keep that line of communication open and keep your mind and heart open. More so your heart than your mind. Because when you're listening with your heart, you're going to be more compassionate and willing to listen and less judgmental to what the kids will be saying.
Listen with your heart. I love that so much.
So, all right, Kimberly, what a great show again this week. So,
yeah,
next week,
I enjoyed it very much.
We'll have another topic. For Kimberly and I, thank you for listening. We hope you have a sunshine mindset to help you create that honeymoon mindset relationship for you and your family. It is very possible. We are living proof and examples of it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week with Honeymoon Mindset with Kids.